Hey friends, good morning. Happy Friday to you. I know this is coming out later than you expected. There's just been several moving pieces this week that have presented some unique challenges. I've been in some dialogue and I've been waiting for some things to become official. Well, really specifically one thing to become official, and it is. And so today we're going to talk about three things: fee increases, transfer student scheduling, and preview weekend waivers. So that'll be the three things that we're going to address. I'll start off right off the bat with the most important thing. This morning, well, all week there has been a discussion about the increase in fees. Actually, it was approved by the Board of Governors in September, but we found out the middle to late end of last week that it was happening. It was a rumor, but it wasn't official, and we thought, oh, it's something, since they hadn't announced it, they hadn't brought it forward to Brian or myself or any of the directors or anybody in admissions or even the registrar for that matter. Um, they hadn't brought it forward and said, hey, don't forget to announce this. They didn't. And so they were thinking, oh, it's something that's going to take place starting in the fall. But it is not. It's actually in place now. The current budget is built around this fee structure. So there is no, I think myself and Brian, were in conversations with the CLELU and with ELT partners in there, just discussing, hey, what is that going to look like? Is there a way that we could delay this for the incoming and roll it to the current, so forth and back and forth? Or maybe we leave the current out of it, only roll it to incoming. But at the end of the day, as a CLELU has kind of outlined it, the budget is built on this structure, and so we really can't make any significant changes to that without some significant challenges to our goals for the year. So all right, so I want to go over this document. As of this morning at 9 a.m., all the current students were sent an email via the registrar's office from a CLELU. Okay, and if you don't know who a CLELU Malat is, he is our new, he's been here since I believe October, our new chief financial officer for the university. So he's the guy who sits on top of the budget. All right, I'm going to share a document with you so you can see it, and I will also put it uh, in the email as well. I want you guys to understand though, this is not okay. So I'm providing you this as inside information as to what went out to our current students. Okay, I want to make this really clear though. Please do not use this as, oh, we had a fee change, email, and then resend it out to the new population. Okay? Just don't do it. Our job as admissions counselors is to update our families, but not via this email. It was not approved for external. It was only approved for the internal current students. Okay? So they've asked us to make sure that we relay that to our families. And because initially they were going to send an email out to all the inquiry database, all students in the database from the registrar. And Brian and myself immediately agreed, hey, that's a new voice they've never heard from. We felt like it's better that we control this message, and because each one of us have the relationships with our students and families that would be asking these questions. So again, this is not for you to forward out to your students and families as a means of, okay, I'll just let them handle it. Okay, you're the person, you're the one who cultivated the relationship, you're the one who has to deliver the information. Okay, so again, don't email it out. This is just so you're understanding of where we're at. There is the letter here that was discusses that it was approved by the Board of Governors. It outlines the breakout for those fee changes. And those fee changes specifically are for our current students. So there are two groups of students in this plan. Okay, the first group is Canadian students. If you are a Canadian citizen, period, that is the first group that's impacted by these change. If so, your fee change credit, your activity fee goes from $15 a credit hour to $25 a credit hour. Okay, now we're going to get to reasons why we did this in a moment. We have a Q&A here at the end. So if you are a Canadian student, a Canadian citizen, okay, and I know there's all these variables. Well, what if I am living in Arizona, but we're Canadian citizens? They are Canadian citizens. The $25 credit hour activity fee increase applies to them. Okay, So, so, so 15 to 25 for Canadian students. Okay. Second one is international students, and that is any student who is not, right? Get it? Not a Canadian student. That includes the U.S. That includes wherever out in the world they're from. They go from $15 to $35 a credit hour activity fee increase. Okay, and at the bottom of this document, and again, I'll send this out to you. At the bottom of this document, you're going to have a Q&A. What are the new fees? Domestic students, $25 per credit hour, which I defined for you. International students, $35 a credit hour. How are they calculated? Okay. So this is probably the place where you're like, what does that really mean to me and to my students? And so Tim Sholba provided a document here for us to get you guys a better understanding of what that actually looks like in price. Now remember, these are all in CAD, Canadian dollars, okay? So keep that in mind, Paul and Megan. All right, so here's what it really does look like. I think we were looking around 450 or 460, I think, in student fees. It's now 750 for Canadian students. On the U.S. side, it is now 1050. That is what the new price range. Now, how did we calculate that? That is calculated on per credit hour that the student is scheduled. So this is based on a 15-hour, or actually, this is actually based on a 30-hour credit semester for the whole year. Okay, so you divide that out, you get 25 an hour, you get 35 an hour at 30 hours. So 15 in the fall, 15 in the spring. Okay, so that's the explanation of the, or that's the what the cost impact is most likely going to show up. There is one other fee that was changed, and I'll show you guys. But I want to walk through these. Are there any other additional fees? Yes, there is a $75 TUSA fee per student per semester with possible additional fees depending on class and program. Okay, so certain classes may have lab requirements or something like that, additional fees that may go with it. But when the student gets into those programs, they will know that. But there is a $75 TUSA fee. Who does this fee? Who does this fee affect? All enrolled students for fall 29. Again, this isn't just, and so sometimes our current students today are getting this news. And the immediate response from our current students will be something along the lines of, why can't we just roll this to the incoming class and just grandfather us out? It's because they're the ones that are also benefiting and needing the infrastructural and technology and so forth that we put into the campus and are building into the campus. So it's not just the incoming students who are using it. All 4 or 5 year groups on our campus are currently using this, so the fee went to all of them. Okay. Which areas of this fee specifically increasing? Activity, infrastructure, and technology. Again, this all gets wrapped up into that student fee. What are the fees for? And this is one of the things where I think is one of the challenges for our ELT and even us on the floor is, what do we say this fee has done? Okay, actually it has created some technological upgrades that are coming onto campus. There will be some infrastructure upgrades to the atrium. The atrium is getting a remodel starting this summer, and so there are some things that are being improved. I think that the students are going to want dollar to dollar. And for our current students in particular, well, if the atrium costs this, then what does the other dollars mean? That is certainly a conversation that TUSA is going to have to work out. But at the end of the day, we can't keep all these costs flatlined forever. It's just the cost of doing business. It is inflation. It's an inflationary change, which you'll actually see in the next question. And we have adjusted. I think the one thing to do keep in mind is that we didn't adjust tuition, which was one of the areas that the university was initially leaning towards this last summer. They wanted to do a significant increase on tuition, and I'm actually glad they didn't. Post law school, it would look like, well, they just raised their fees to pay off their losses and so forth, which that question actually gets asked. And this is part of some of these questions where they sat down with TUSA and walk through some of the possible questions. We'll get to that. But this is just inflation. Actually, the next question, what are these rising operational costs? And this was based on a consumer price index, a CPI, for the month of January 2019. Inflation in BC rose 2.4%, which is a full percentage point above the national average for Canada. It's no surprise living here in BC is one of the most expensive markets in Canada, and so to see a full percent increase over the national average was really not that big of a surprise, and the institution was just forced to increase the fee to help offset some of those costs or that inflation. So that's that. Why is this fee not applied to incoming freshmen? Incoming freshmen account for 25 to 30% of the student body, whereas rising costs are being incurred across the student body, not just the freshmen. Okay, which I think is interesting that they use freshmen because I always hear, first years. Anyway, so I thought that was a interesting little bit there. Is this fee increase, and this is an important question, is this fee increase related to the law school and any legal costs associated with the Supreme Court case? So I want to just kind of speak to that really quickly. That is going to be a quick assumption. Maybe you even made that assumption. Some of your families may make that assumption. Here's the thing: this is actually a testimony to the amazing community and the alumni and donor network that we have surrounding Trinity. The entire court costs, and we're talking millions, really, somewhere in the neighborhood of 10 to 15 million, I believe, was spent over the course of 5.5 years to get to the Supreme Court. That was lawyers, that was filing fees, that was appeal fees, that was, just every single thing that you can imagine went into that, was completely paid for by the Defense of Freedom Fund, and which is something that the university set up, and also benefactors and alumni who said, hey, we don't want these costs, we want to contribute to this effort, and so it was completely paid for. So nothing has to do with the court case. Okay, this is just operational increase due to inflation. So it's just where we're at with our fees. Again, don't send this out to your students. Read through this document in its entirety. If you have questions, please start them on Slack or hit me up directly, and we'll go from that. To our U.S., why did we break them out? Why was the fee change so different between Canada and the international markets? Well, with Canada, again, that's the majority of our students. A majority of our students on campus, 80% of our students are Canadian, and so they're the ones that are primarily using it. They had to have some increase, but that didn't cover it all. So we looked at our international market, being the United States, and all the international students coming in, and there was enough elasticity there. And speaking to the U.S., we're about 6.5–7% cheaper than most of the private Christian universities in the United States, and so there we felt like, hey, there was a little bit of elasticity for us to exercise into that market. Again, these are in Canadian dollars. So for the U.S. market, I don't think that this is a massive tension in terms of they're coming or not. International markets, that remains to be seen. Not as familiar with our international students coming from other countries. That, like I said, that remains to see how this fee impacts them. They don't have the benefit of a U.S. dollar, perhaps. So that's something, again, we'll just have to see how that works out. But we just felt like, but I will say, one of the studies that came out in January that the University Commission is that our international students are about 10% less. So in the United States, we're about 5 to 6%. We are 10% less on the international market in terms of price into getting in. So international fees and so forth, handling, sometimes universities, they don't offer any scholarships, those kind of things. So for the barriers are bigger to get into other schools. And so again, we felt like there was a little bit of flexibility there for us to lean into that and increase their fees to help offset the overall costs of the increase. Okay, it says I'm no longer sharing here, so I'm gonna, oh no, I guess it is I'm sharing. Okay, great. All right, I'm gonna put this one off and I'm gonna go back here. Okay, so that's where we're at with the fees. It's a really important document. Please read through it. Current students are getting that email today. If you have a current student today in your family, or that you are, or in one of the families that you're working with, they're probably going to be asking questions. So please be prepared for that. Okay. Next, treat as transfer. So starting on April 2nd, any student in our system who is identified as transfer, okay, um, in our system is able, and then they're deposited, will be able to start scheduling. Okay, so that's really important. If you have a student indicated as a transfer student, treat as transfer in Salesforce, and they've deposited, they will be able to start scheduling April 2nd. So that's good news. We can kind of get them through a little bit earlier. They can start getting their schedule. So and for those of you that do have those kind of students, actually, this may be very convenient because they working out their course schedules is a little bit trickier. And so you're going to have to, read through the transcript evaluation and plan for them and plan with them. So there's a little bit more. So getting them started earlier is a good thing. So that starts April 2nd. There is one caveat to that, and we're waiting for some feedback. As you, for those of you that work with transfers more extensively, you understand that our business students all have to go through Dr. Mark McKay, and he builds out their schedule and gives them recommendations of courses to take. So hold on. Everyone else is treated as transfer. We're still planning that Mark McKay is going to be ready April 2nd, but I think he's got a few things going on in April 2nd. So there's a good chance that there may be a little bit of a pushback there. We haven't heard yet, so more to come on the business side. But again, there's nothing stopping that from happening. I just don't know what his response time is going to look like April 2nd. So anyway, treat as transfer. An email is going out Monday. Okay, so every student in our database who is identified as transfer eligible is getting an email sent out by Kelty. It says, hey, on April 2nd, you are available to register for classes. Trust me, they're going to come knocking. Okay, so you need to be prepared for them. So you might want to spend some time next week kind of identifying those students, kind of partitioning out, building out a list for them, and starting to kind of prepare for conversations with them. It's a great way to get a consult in. It's a great way to make sure you get deposits coming in. Transfer students are highly transactional. They want to know that they can get into the classes that they need. And so the more responsive you are on that side, it can help with deposits. It can help with your just kind of anchoring them in, solidifying them in. Once they get a schedule, boom, they're set. And that's just maybe a few less students that you have to worry about in going forward. So anyway, that goes out on Monday. And well, I'm sure we'll have more questions about that and talk about it going up. Last thing I want to talk about is preview waivers. Preview waivers, hey, we've got to get these in, right? I know it's not a perfect process. It's a manual process on our side right now. Amy and Babbitt are working on a process right now to incorporate this in when they RSVP through Salesforce, that they automatically get this form. So, but that won't be active until the fall. But they are working on it. So again, just slug through this. Got to get one more preview weekend in front of us next Thursday, Friday, and then we'll be done with this. So send out the waivers, get them completed, send them into Tiffany. Follow the make sure it's in the subject line, preview weekend waiver and student name, so she has them. You are responsible to make sure they're read through and ready. She is looking for student names, because those are the ones who have indicated, hey, we're flying in, we're going to need a shuttle, so forth. And so she's looking for those student names. She is trusting that the document is complete on your side, because God forbid something happened to one of these students, she can just pull that out and say, okay, here's the medicine they need, or here's the person, here's the situations people we need to contact, or contingency. So, okay. A lot of information there. I'm going to stop this conversation now. You guys know where to find me. I'll send this out. I'll highlight it in the notes, and that's all I got. See you all on Monday. Thank you.